the world is witnessing a seismic shift in the global balance of power. Europe, traditionally a staunch ally of the United States, is increasingly finding itself drawn into China's orbit. This emerging dynamic is reshaping the geopolitical landscape and causing ripples of concern across Washington. For decades, the transatlantic partnership formed the bedrock of the Western world. Europe and the US stood shoulder to shoulder, united by shared values and common interests. But times are changing. China's meteoric rise as an economic and military powerhouse is challenging the established order. Europe, eager to diversify its partnerships and capitalize on China's economic prowess, is cautiously embracing this new reality. Trade between Europe and China has skyrocketed in recent years, with China becoming a crucial market for European goods and a vital source of investment. This burgeoning relationship, however, is not without its complexities. Europe finds itself walking a tightrope, balancing its economic interests with concerns over China's human rights record and assertive foreign policy. The road ahead is fraught with uncertainty and fraught with potential pitfalls. China's ambitions on the world stage are no secret. With a rapidly growing economy and a modernizing military, China is determined to reclaim its historical position as a global superpower. Its strategy is multifaceted, encompassing economic might, diplomatic influence, and military modernization. Central to China's ambitions is its Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure project spanning continents and connecting China to markets across Asia, Africa, and Europe. This ambitious undertaking is seen by many as a modern-day Silk Road, designed to project Chinese influence and reshape global trade routes. China's growing assertiveness is particularly evident in its relationship with Russia. Faced with mounting pressure from the West, particularly following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, China and Russia have deepened their cooperation on multiple fronts. This strategic alignment has raised concerns in Western capitals, as it has the potential to reshape the global balance of power. China's support for Russia, however, extends beyond mere economic cooperation. China has refrained from condemning Russia's actions in Ukraine and has even provided tacit support for Russia's narrative. This stance has further strained relations with the West and fueled accusations that China is enabling Russian aggression. Europe's response to China's rise has been far from unified. The European Union, a bloc of 27 member states with diverse interests and perspectives, has struggled to find common ground on how to approach this emerging power. On the one hand, many European nations recognize the economic opportunities presented by China. China is a massive market for European goods, and Chinese investment has played a significant role in supporting European economies, particularly in the wake of the global financial crisis. On the other hand, there are growing concerns about China's human rights record, its lack of transparency, and its increasingly assertive foreign policy. These concerns have led to calls for a more cautious approach, one that balances economic engagement with the protection of European values and interests. This internal debate within the EU has been on full display in recent months, as evidenced by the Blocs' divided stance on issues such as the imposition of tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. This issue in particular highlights the challenges facing Europe as it navigates its relationship with China. The European Union's decision to impose tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles is a prime example of the complexities inherent in the EU-China relationship. This move, while welcomed by some as a necessary step to protect European manufacturers, has also exposed the deep divisions within the bloc. Proponents of the tariffs argue that they are essential to level the playing field and prevent Chinese companies from flooding the European market with cheap, subsidized EVs. They argue that such a scenario would undermine European industry and cost European jobs. Opponents of the tariffs, however, counter that they will ultimately harm European consumers by driving up prices and limiting choice. They also fear that the tariffs could spark a trade war with China, which would have devastating consequences for both sides. The decision to impose tariffs on Chinese EVs is just one example of the growing trend of protectionism in the global economy. As countries become increasingly concerned about their own economic security, they are resorting to measures such as tariffs and subsidies to protect their domestic industries. Section 5. Across the Pond, America's Response to the Dragon's Rise. The United States, long accustomed to being the world's sole superpower, has viewed China's rise with a mixture of apprehension and alarm. The U.S. government has responded to China's growing influence with a combination of economic measures, diplomatic pressure, and military posturing. One of the most significant developments in recent years has been the trade war between the U.S. and China. The Trump administration imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, and China retaliated with tariffs of its own. This tit-for-tat escalation has had a significant impact on the global economy, disrupting supply chains and raising prices for consumers. The Biden administration has maintained many of the tariffs imposed by its predecessor, while also seeking to rally allies and partners to counter what it sees as China's unfair trade practices and aggressive foreign policy. The U.S. has also increased its military presence in the Indo-Pacific region, a move seen as a direct response to China's growing assertiveness in the South China Sea. Beyond trade and geopolitics, the U.S. and China are also locked in a fierce competition for technological supremacy. Both countries recognize that dominance in key technological fields such as artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and 5G telecommunications will be crucial to their economic competitiveness and national security in the 21st century. The U.S. government has accused China of engaging in unfair practices such as intellectual property theft and forced technology transfer in its pursuit of technological advancement. In recent years, the U.S. has taken steps to restrict Chinese companies' access to sensitive technologies, such as advanced semiconductors and software. China has criticized these moves as attempts to stifle its technological development and maintain U.S. hegemony. The Chinese government has invested heavily in its own technological capabilities and has made significant strides in areas such as artificial intelligence and quantum computing. This technological rivalry has far-reaching implications for the global economy and the balance of power. The outcome of this competition will shape the future of innovation and determine which countries are best positioned to thrive in the decades to come. The escalating rivalry between the U.S. and China, coupled with Europe's evolving stance, has led to a fragmentation of the global landscape. We are witnessing the emergence of competing economic blocs, each with its own set of rules, regulations, and alliances. On the one hand, there is the US-led bloc, which includes traditional allies such as Japan, South Korea, and Australia. These countries are generally aligned with the US on issues such as trade, security, and human rights. On the other hand, there is the China-led bloc, which includes countries such as Russia, Pakistan, and several nations in Southeast Asia and Africa. These countries are often drawn to China's economic model and its willingness to challenge the existing global order. Europe, caught in the middle, is trying to chart a course that balances its economic interests with its values and security concerns. The EU is seeking to reduce its dependence on both the US and China, while also forging its own path on the global stage. This fragmentation of the global economy has significant implications for businesses and consumers alike. Companies operating in this new environment must navigate a complex web of tariffs, regulations, and geopolitical risks. Europe finds itself at a crossroads, facing a strategic dilemma with profound implications for its future. The continent must carefully navigate the complexities of its relationships with both the United States and China, seeking to safeguard its interests without alienating either of these global powers. The transatlantic relationship, while strained in recent years, remains a cornerstone of European security and prosperity. The U.S. remains a vital ally, providing military protection through NATO and serving as a crucial economic partner. However, Europe cannot ignore the reality of China's ascendance. China is now the EU's second-largest trading partner, and its economic clout continues to grow. Engaging with China offers significant opportunities for European businesses, but it also presents risks and challenges. Europe's challenge is to find a balance between these competing priorities. It must maintain close ties with the U.S., while also deepening its engagement with China in a way that protects its interests and upholds its values. The evolving dynamics between the U.S., China, and Europe are reshaping the global order. The unipolar moment of U.S. dominance is fading, giving way to a multipolar world. China's rise challenges the existing global order, Its economic and military growth shifts the balance of power. The US must now contend with a more assertive China and a resurgent Russia. Europe is charting its own course. This competition will shape the future of the world.